Good evening. This is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society Net on the 08 machine. I'm Dave, WW7ATS. Washington Amateur Television Society is a group of amateur radio enthusiasts that get together with fast scan television. We have a repeater located up on Cougar Mountain. We transmit on 70 centimeters. There's a crossband repeater and spits out images at 1.2 gigahertz. To find out more about the Western Washington Amateur Television Society, visit our homepage. Google WW7ATS. That's Google WW7ATS. That will take you to our homepage where you'll find out some information about our group, also the frequencies that we transmit on. Also on our front page is a link for streaming to YouTube, where we stream our nets held Wednesdays and Saturdays between 8 and 9 o'clock on the internet through YouTube. Also, we'd like to thank the SeaTac Repeater Association for allowing us to use WW7STR's repeater 14708 for our voice transmissions with a tone of 103.5 for our nets. So with that, I'll pause in case anybody has emergency traffic or needs to make a contact with anybody before our net gets fully underway. This is Dave, KD7CYM.
7KC.
Western Washington Amateur Television Society Net. I'm Dave, KD7CYM. So far, checked into the net this evening is Ron, KD7QKU, Jessica, KS7UHK, Lee, N7KC, Bob, K9PQ, Wade, W7ITL, Jim, N7QO, James, WU7N, and myself, Dave, KD7CYM. Is there anybody else that would like to check into the net this evening? Hearing none, let's go to Tacoma to Ron, KD7QKU.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Dave. Good evening to the group. This is Ron, KD7QKU, and yes, I am in Tacoma. I'm over by the Narrows Bridge, a little north of Highway 16. I'm just trying to think of anything exciting that went on since I saw you guys last. I guess we have a meeting on Saturday. It just seems like we just had a meeting. The month just flew by. I guess I had difficulty with my HF radio. I bought that radio used a long time ago over in Montana. A gentleman had passed away and his wife had all of these stuff up for sale. And it was in a little small town at Twin Bridges. It probably only had a couple hundred people. So the likelihood of her selling this stuff wasn't very good. So Randy convinced me to buy this radio, and I did. And ever since I've had it, where the power cable attaches to the back of the radio, it was all taped up, and the plug that plugs into the receptacle on the radio, it was taped, and then the power cable was all taped up. And here lately, I've been using it, and it's been quitting. The radio just quits. Right in the middle of a conversation, and I finally discovered that if I turn it off, turn it off and on, power supply or something, turn it back on, it'll come on. And so finally, I discovered that if I wiggled the power cable, it would come on and off. So then, with Monday, sometime I decided to undo the tape. Well, it was a mess. It was like electrolysis. So it's a 4-prong plug, and the side, the hot side, the red side, was the cable that attaches, you know, the prongs that plug in, or the receptacle that plugs into the prongs, that were totally destroyed. They were just like non-existent. They were just eaten up. So I spent the last few days trying to clean the receptacle up in the back of the radio. I think I got it clean enough. I think it's going to be fine. And then I was talking to my friend Randy, telling him that I didn't know if I'd ever get a power cable. Oh yeah, he said no problem. So he found me one on eBay within 15 minutes and sent me this site. So then I ordered it from eBay. I think it'll be here maybe the 7th, which is next Tuesday, hopefully. I can plug it in and get back on the air. So anyway, that was what I was doing. The receptacle in the back of the radio, there's little cavities, you know, with the little pins in it. And the other one has a little part that plugs into the little receptacle. And the little pins, they were so small I couldn't get a Q-tip in there. So I had to take tweezers in the smallest little, like, watts. I had a little set of screwdrivers, and I had to take the very tiniest one I had to get in there with a piece of paper or sandpaper. I put sandpaper and I twirled it around and around in there. And I think I finally got it cleaned up. All right, back to net, KD7QKU.
QKU, thanks for that. Let's go to Jessica, KF7UHK.
This is KF7UHK, Jessica. Let's see, yesterday morning as I went out to go to work, it was snowing out, and this was like 2 o'clock about noon or so. It was still snowing up here in Everett. We're about 550 feet. And it looked like a white Christmas from here to about the Camino cutoff, to the road to Camino, and then snow was completely gone. It was like I drove through a time zone or something, because it was just like bam, it was no snow up there, which was nice. I didn't mind that a bit. Didn't have to go driving buses in the snow. Today I was on call today, and they did not call me. And so I was like, woohoo! I got a free day off. Now I usually dress up and ready to go. So if they do call me, I can easily, put my shoes on and out the door, and off I go. But they did not call me today, and I appreciate that. I don't mind an extra day off here and there, because this is a fill-in job. This last weekend we worked on our Mount Vernon house. Sylvia's turning the living room downstairs into her art studio / photography studio, and we have a bunch of different pieces. And the piece behind me here is by Peter Max. He likes to do these things with. It looks like he has a paintbrush full of different colors as he's brushing them on, and they're not always easy to figure out how he does it, and that's probably why he does it this way. And as the art dealer that we bought some stuff from on our last cruise said, if you don't have a Peter Max, buy a Peter Max, and if you already have a Peter Max, buy another Peter Max, because he's getting older in age and not going to be painting so much. So it's kind of like dirt. They only make so much. With that, I'm going to pass it back. KF7UHK.
KF7UHK. Thanks, Jessica. And for ID purposes, this is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society net. I'm Dave, KD7ZYM. So let's go to Lee, N7KC in Port Angeles.
Okay, very good. N7KC, Lee over in PA. Yeah, well, beautiful day today, 1st of March. I got glasses. I went 4 months without glasses. My cataract surgery started the first week of November, and here we are, the first week of March, and so finally got them today. They called at about 3:30, and I said I'll be right there. And so I got 2 pair. I got my computer glasses, which I have now, which are you know, it's great. And then I got a pair of bifocals too. And so I'm just delighted about that. And so we celebrated and went to dinner at Taco Time. Mainly because it was right down pretty close to where the glasses place was. I don't have a whole lot tonight. I'm optimistic that warm weather is on its way, and we're not going to go backwards, because I disassembled the hummingbird heater wiring. Well, it's just an extension cord, you know, that runs out there. And we also have a 60-watt bulb and a 5-gallon bucket underneath a stainless steel bowl, which keeps water from freezing for the birds and the occasional deer that needs a drink. Got a new crown yesterday. Boy, I've just been refurbished here. Anyway, I got the crown on yesterday, so that seems to be doing okay. Anyway, good to see you all. Back to you, Dave, at 7KC, Lee in Port Angeles.
KC, let's go to Bob, K9PQ, Bottle.
Okay, well, good evening, everybody. Yeah, kind of a quiet week for me. Not a lot going on. Dealing with a little ailment earlier this week, but doing better. And what I have tonight for you all is my earthquake detector. I have an earthquake detector, and it actually works. I know. I tested it on an earthquake that was so small I couldn't feel it. The only thing I knew was the power lines were moving a little bit. I was looking out the window, but that could have been breeze. Then I walked into the kitchen, where this frame with a hanging picture was doing this. It was swinging back and forth. And the one thing I did notice from the earthquake, as I say, it was very, very minor. Too minor for me to feel the actual earthquake, but I immediately felt nauseous, like I was going to throw up. I mean, immediately, like a light switch turned on. I've never felt it come on like that before. And then it very quickly faded away. But it was just an odd feeling, and it was only from seeing that picture frame moving and then seeing confirmation on the news afterward that there was a very, very small earthquake. This was when I was living in Seattle, near Lee, when we were both living up there in Maple Leaf. So that was some years ago. Anyway, there you go. That's what I have for you tonight, my earthquake detector. Back to net, K9PQ.
K9PQ, thanks for that. Let's see if we can pick up Wade, W7ATS in Tacoma. W7ATS in Tacoma. No response on W7ATS. Let's go to Jim, N7QO in Covington. W7NQO, we get a carrier, but we're not getting any modulation. No response from N7QO. Let's go to James, W7M. Something seems to be triggering the repeat for some reason. This is Dave, KD7CYM.
Can you hear me over the top of the carrier here? WW7ATS. U7N was key informed on 7 November. Someone was key down there for a while. Jim, if that was you, we had a very, very strong carrier, but no audio. Here. Well, Ron, you know, I had to be reminded of this. It's only 28 days in February, so if you feel like you're missing a few days there, you know, that's just the way it goes. Yeah, I'm glad you got your connector cleaned up. I was going to recommend ripping the entire connector out and going with super glue and baking soda. But if it's a Molex or something standard, there's probably better ways to do it. Tell you, I am absolutely amazed. I was going to use the super glue and baking soda trick on a pair of headphones that I've just been using to death here, and they finally broke. And I thought, there's just not enough plastic there. But I just put a whole lot of pressure while the super glue was setting, and so far they're holding up. I'm absolutely amazed at that stuff. Obviously, yet another invention, along with microwave ovens and Velcro, left by aliens in hopes we would destroy ourselves. So anyway, well, Lee, you got glasses, you got crowns, complete rebuild in progress. You're really inspiring me. I want to rebuild my truck this summer, so that's good news. I'm glad to hear that it's all going well. Let's see, earthquake detection. Okay, discussion I had with Bob earlier. There is actually, this is no kidding, there are people who their nervous systems are affected just before major earthquakes, and they don't know why, but they get sick. And there's actually, the federal government actually has a group of these people that they stay in touch with, and they have all these filtering questions to filter out fakers, and I don't know if these people get paid anything or not, but they get quite ill right before false snap and shift. So that's kind of interesting. Maybe we all have a little bit of that in us, but I guess I would know by now. I had a cat jumping around 22 years ago, but I'm afraid I practically slept through the whole thing if that hadn't happened. I was working night shift at the time. Well, anyway, so as earthquakes span the globe here, if you get nauseated right before they happen, maybe you should contact the National Geologic Agency, NGA, whatever it is, the people who study earthquakes. A lot of wind up on the hill tonight, I can tell that. The 1.2 signal has a very strong signal, good color carrier, but it kind of comes and goes and it rolls. So that usually is indicative of a lot of wind up there on Cougar tonight. So anybody who's watching us on 1.2 gigahertz, if you're getting the signal direct, it's not you, it's the conditions up there. So anyway, that's it from me, James, WU7N in Northeast Bellevue. Let's go back to our net control. Dave, take it away.
WU7N, this is Dave, KD7CYM in Lake City. I got 42 degrees, kind of an active day for me. Got a bunch of things done around the house, a few chores, and then I was on the internet this morning and I got hit with a ransomware notice, so that was kind of intriguing, but have had the same one before, and I went to, I've got Windows 10 running, so go to the MS Start button, and then from the Start button, go to Settings, and then Settings, go to Security, then from Security, go to Virus Scan, then go for a full scan, and then once that's done, go to an off router scan, disconnected from the internet and scan. And those two scans took about 4 hours. So anyway, hopefully I've got rid of it. This in the past has been 24 hours later, it goes back to trying to find the internet address, and it doesn't exist any longer. So by the next day it's cleared. So anyway, hopefully tomorrow I'll see a clear path to getting into back on the internet on my main computer. So that's what's been happening here. not too exciting, but anyway, it certainly adds a little excitement to your life. This is Dave, KD7ZYM, and let's go to Ron, KD7QKU.
Dave, KD7QKU. With Jim N7QO, if you were trying to talk to us, we saw your carrier, but we certainly didn't hear any voice. So, and you had a little bit of that problem once before. Well, this is the 1st of March, and the 1st of March, the early fishing season opens up on some of the lakes in eastern Washington. And I used to look forward to going, and I would be over there on this day, or maybe even over there yesterday, camped out in the camper and have the boat and trailer and put the boat in and be ready to go. And it would be warm, probably be about 65 or 70, and the sun would be out. Many times in eastern Washington, you have a little wind, so lots of times there'd be a little breeze, but it would be absolutely beautiful. But I would say this year the lakes are frozen. I haven't called. I may call over there to Freda to the regional game department, and they'd probably tell you. But the lake that we usually went to is probably frozen. It was by Quincy. So anyway, and as far as earthquakes go, when we had the big earthquake, I've never really experienced an earthquake since I lived here. I came here in '65, and we had a few, but then I was working about 20 years ago when we had the big earthquake. And I was in the truck, and I was backing up to the loading dock over at Eastside Hospital. And I looked in the mirror, and this truck felt funny. And I looked in the mirror, and the side of the building was like, going back and forth or something. And then I looked in front of me, and the trees around the parking lot were swinging back and forth. And actually the asphalt was going like this, believe it or not. I mean, it was the weirdest thing I ever saw. And so I stopped, put my foot on the brake, and at that time the people came pouring out of the building. They were all scared. And of course, by then the quake was over. And I got out and I looked at the asphalt in the parking lot in front of the truck and everything. It wasn't broken. I couldn't believe that it went like a wave through it, and it didn't break it. But the power lines were still flopping back and forth on the poles and stuff. But that was the big one that we had when a lot of stuff fell down in Seattle, the old fronts on the buildings and stuff. But yeah, that's the only one I guess I ever experienced. So we've had, quite a few little ones. We had just a little one the other day up in the San Juan Island. Maybe it was today, or it was either today or yesterday. So anyway, I guess I really wasn't scared because it happened so fast I didn't have time to get scared, and I didn't get sick. So I guess I'm not one of those people. But I understand that birds, maybe, and cats and dogs, they sense them. So anyway, I guess. Oh yeah, Lee, it's nice that you got your glasses and that you got your crown. And I don't need either one for a while, I hope. All right, back to net, KD7QKU.
QKU. Let's go to Jessica, KF7UHK.
UHK. I was in one of the buildings that's no longer there down in Renton during that Nisqually earthquake, which I think we're thinking of, 2001. That was February 28th. I just went and looked it up. And I was on the second floor in this big building, and I was talking sign language to a friend of mine because it was break time. And it might have been break time. But we were talking sign language, and I looked over the thing I was working on, and everything started to get blurry. And what it was is all these hanging wires from the ceiling that are all electrical drops were all swinging so fast that it just looked like a blur to me. And I was thinking, what's going on? I think they brought a forklift up onto the second floor that it shouldn't be here. And I thought it was a forklift because it was kind of had that roar sound to it. So I went out this back fire escape area, which was rocking like a boat, and the walls were starting to crack on it because it was just some simple drywall that was painted. Made it outside to the ground, and would see these great big roll-up doors, probably 4 stories tall, flapping outside of their tracks. Dangerous as heck. If these things had fallen on someone, they would have cut someone's head off. They were just, it was, and like I say, the building was completely damaged. The elevators didn't work anymore. There was steam pipes that had broken, and water was all over the floor. They let us go home for that day, and I think all the way through the weekend, because I think it was like on a Thursday or something. I was terrified to come back in that building after that. It was because I had only been there for a very short time after my job down in Kent went to Texas, so I was kind of new in the area. Just a real scary earthquake. And you think about all the bridges around here in the Northwest, you know, and we're so lucky we didn't lose a bunch of bridges somehow. So that's what I remember. Bad, scary memories. KF7UHK.
UHK. Let's go to Lee, N7KC in Port Angeles.
Okay, here's Lee again in 7KC in Port Angeles. Well, very interesting. Well, I worked in the at the geophysics department. I was for several years at the Western Washington radio telemeter seismic array. And the time I left, we had 16 stations on mountaintops around, all VHF radioed into the university. So forth. I've been through a couple of earthquakes. 65 one that was Nisqually, I guess it was, and then there was another one in the 70s. I don't know. Anyway, 2 of them in Seattle. Stuff. In fact, Paul and I were in Johnson Hall when that big one occurred, and I thought the floor, there was an explosion, I thought in a laboratory. Anyway, this great big building got up and danced. Boy, we went racing for the doors, as did everybody else. And when we got outside, we were overlooking Drumheller Fountain there at the UW, Fresh Pond they call it, and water was splashing out of it, out over the bricks. Well, I knew as soon as I saw that what was going on, and there was a lot of damage. At least one building on the campus had to be torn down. It was left over from the exposition of 1890, so it probably needed to be torn down regardless. But anyway, it's pretty exciting. I have a real seismometer here. This is a 4.5 hertz natural frequency, which is used in oil exploration, that sort of thing. Anyway, this is a moving coil magnet, and you can feel it's a vertical seismometer, and hasn't, like I said, normally the scientific ones that we would use would have what's called a natural period of 1 hertz, one cycle per second, and you damp them critically, and then the output from the seismometer would go to a voltage controlled oscillator. And so we had about a dozen different what were called VCO frequencies, and then what we would do was we would mix those in a very, very linear fashion, and then transmit them by VHF transmitter and so forth, and then display all that stuff, recorded and whatnot. So it was quite an adventure. I really, really got a kick out of that job. Anyway. And I had a 10-year contract with the Corps of Engineers in Libby, Montana, to do the Libby Dam. and I did the seismic instrumentation for that and so forth, and had the contract for 10 years there. So anyway, I'm kind of familiar with that stuff. Pretty exciting stuff. I hope we don't have one over here. If we do, we're supposed to be 160 feet to the west when it's over. We'll see. Back to you, Dave, in 7KC, Leopold Angeles.
In 7KC, well, for ID here again, this is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society net. On the 08 machine, I'm Dave, KD7CYM. Again, this is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society net. Well, let's move on down to Bob, K9PQ.
Well, let's see. I guess I'll share my experience of the Nisqually quake. I was living in Maple Leaf and working just south of Northgate, a very short distance from where I lived. And in the building, the memory for me of the quake, and I don't know if this had anything to do with the building continuing to shake. I don't think that was the case, but the memory that sticks with me is it just lasted longer than I expected. I'd been through a couple of earthquakes when I was a kid here in Seattle, but nothing that shook that much. Probably those didn't even shake that much, but they certainly didn't last that long. And so I got under the desk, and I was like, okay, all right, I'm under the desk, everything's fine. Okay, it's still going. It's still going. And I don't know, it felt like about 30 seconds. It probably wasn't that long. Somebody could look it up, I suppose. But that's what it felt like. It just seemed to keep going and going. And then when it finally did stop, because I lived close by, I drove up to my house to make sure there wasn't any damage. My person living in the mother-in-law apartment in the basement told me there was a big crash upstairs, so I was fearing the worst there, just of damage. But it was just a frying pan that had slid off the stove and made a really loud noise when it hit the floor. So I got lucky on that one. For as much shaking, there was, I believe, no damage at all. Hardly anything even fell over. So it's not bad in, as far as lasting damage. Okay, I'll send it back to Ned, K9PQ.
Thanks for that. Let's try Wade again, W7ITL. No response from W7ITL. Let's try Jim again, N7QO.
If that was you, we had a carrier again, but no sound. K9PQ.
Move on down to James, WU7N in Bellevue.
Well, I was going to suggest to Jim, we're hearing a carrier, so you just have to get a 600 hertz tone on there, and we can do CW. We could receive that. So if you have something that's getting audio out at all, you could always, that. So just a suggestion there. Me2 got a ransomware notice. It's from these hideous group of pirates known as Microsoft. I was a Hotmail customer when it was a brand new concept and no one knew it was going to take off or not. And I've had the same Hotmail account forever and ever. And then it changed over to Outlook, but of course the hotmail.com URL still just routes to Outlook. And I have this grandfathered free account. I knew they'd get me someday, and this is how they did it. I've got a couple different email accounts. But one of them is my personal one, and I enjoy getting photographs and videos from everyone, and I just, leave it in the files or folders on the Outlook account. And of course, those add up. And so I got a notice, this was very odd, saying as of February 1st, I would no longer be able to send or receive email because I'd exceeded my storage allocation. Now, for those of us who count, this is the third month of the year, and I didn't get this little pink banner bar until today. So I'm wondering if somebody typoed it. I can still, apparently you still receive email. I haven't tried sending one yet. But, of course, they make it as difficult as possible for me to go to all the emails that have attachments on them, that are photographs or videos, and download them. There's no way, convenient way, of course, you can just take a whole batch and download them into some sort of a local file or hard drive or somewhere else. Like, I was trying to figure out how to get them all over to a Google Drive, but, of course, they don't make that easy. If you want to pay them $19.99 plus $2 sales tax, I'm sure is in there somewhere, then you get some measly amount of storage. I think it's like, you know, it's not even a terabyte. You have to go up to $70 a year before you even get a terabyte. I think I've got a hard drive sitting on the desk right here. It's 5 terabytes. So anyway, I mean, of course, you know, if the earthquake destroys the house, it's nice to have that stuff stored off-site someplace. So I'll have to figure out what to do with that. But so watch your attachments, because apparently the ASCII text is not significant for storage, but all those cool pictures and videos everyone's sending you, it will add up, and eventually it'll get you. Also say, since Jessica brought up famous painters, I too am a famous painter. This is the latest work I have. This is called Circle, and it's captioned, what did the circle say to the square? I don't understand your points. Now, I just, you know, this is just for this group only. I'd be willing to, you know, sell this, and I too someday will be dead, and it'll be famous. So I just thought I'd throw it out there. You can call me after the net. We certainly wouldn't want to do pecuniary interest on amateur radio. So, that's it for me, James in Northeast Bellevue, WW7ATS, and let's turn it back to net control.
7N. Well, I didn't realize you were such an artist in demand. So anyway, it was great for you to share that great artwork with us. I'm sure Antique Roadshow will be along soon with PBS to contact you and let you know how much it was really worth in the long run. Well, this is Dave, KD7ZYM in Lake City. And again, the temperature's still hanging in there at 42. Hasn't been any raindrops later this afternoon. I was surprised. It was supposed to be a little bit rainy, but that never happened. Got out for lunch with my daughter this afternoon up in Edmonds, and it was clear up there. The only thing was a lot of traffic on Highway 99 where they're doing a bunch of construction, putting in a center planter box area to keep pedestrians from going across Highway 99. So now the pedestrians move over to that planter area, stand there, and then wait for the traffic, and then move across the other lanes. So I don't know how that's going to work out in the long run, but there are street lights about every 4 or 5 blocks. Some people seem to be rather impatient and just want to cross when they want to cross. And this is Dave, KD7ZYM. So that's pretty much all I've got to add with that. I was thinking about earthquakes, and I remember the one, the Squally earthquake. I was on the phone with an individual. I was in my kitchen, and things were swaying back and forth, but that only lasted about 15 seconds. Seemed like hours, but it was just over practically before it started. We got outside. Ended up with a few cracks in the walls in the house, and that was about it. So no major damage, no water pipe damage, no gas lines broke loose. So anyway, the problem is I live in a big sand pile here in Lake City, so I was kind of concerned that there would be more damage, but there wasn't. Well, this is Dave, KD7ZYM. So let's go back up to Ron, KD7QKU, and get some more fishing tales.
You again, Dave, KD7QKU here. Yeah, well, I went home too and looked around, and there was a little crack from the corner where the hall came out, and then it went across to the kitchen. And so I had a new little crack in the ceiling, but it wasn't hardly noticeable, and I never repaired it or anything. But that was all the damage I could find in our house. That house that we had in Bellevue, I always felt like it was really earthquake proof. In the foundation, there were pockets, and in those pockets there were beams that went, across, and then the 2x6 decking floor was put on top of those beams, and those beams, usually there's a plate that they put bolts in the foundation, and then they bolt a plate down. Well, this one, it actually had pockets in the foundation, and these 4x6 or whatever they were beams went across about every 4 feet, and then it had a 2x6 decking going the other direction. So it was a pretty rigid house. Well, you guys probably remember I had that little tiny radio that my friend Randy in Boise sent to me. It was orange colored. Well, yesterday I put it in the box with all the stuff he sent with me, and I sent it back to him. I was, it didn't have 10 meters, and I'm only a technician, and I'm never going to get a key, and I'm never going to do Morse code, so I just decided that it was just going to be tossed on the shelf in the garage or something. I might as well send it back to him, and he could either use it or trade it off or sell it or whatever he wanted to do. But anyway, I called him and told him I'd taken it over to UPS, and I was sending it back to him, and I thanked him very much for sending it to me. I had the fun of playing with it for a while, but like I say, it was never going to happen, I don't think. So anyway, I guess that's it. I hope Jim gets his, it must be his microphone cable or something. I hope he gets that fixed. So back to that KD7QKU.
KD7QKU. Let's go to Jessica, KF7UHK.
To that art humor that James brought us, I was just thinking why was six afraid of 7? Because 789 is the only number joke I know. And then the planter box is in the middle of Highway 99. Things like a perfect place to plant people who don't make the cut when they're running across like a frogger. And as a bus driver, I see that a lot of people who are crossing the road that should be using a crosswalk. And sometimes, when you're in a big bus and you're looking for all sorts of things, you got to look out for people who are doing things in front of you that they will not win if I ran over them. So yeah, that's a real concern for me. Yeah, the Frogger game. That's all I can think of is the Frogger game. If you've seen that. And my $6 million man reference is for Mr. Lee down there, who's getting everything replaced. So we can rebuild him, make him bigger, faster, stronger. I can't remember. So I probably watched too many episodes of that, and it was a silly show. Yes, and you always wonder why other parts of his body didn't break while he was lifting things up with one hand. So with that, I'm gonna pass it back. KF7UHK.
KF7UHK. Let's go to Lee, N7KC in Port Angeles.
Okay. You man? Is it working? Okay. Okay, Lee, N7KC in Port Angeles. Well, James, when I saw your circle, it made me think of a really cute thing I saw downtown here on a reader board. Now listen carefully. O says to 8, nice belt. O says to 8, nice belt. Anyway, yeah, talking about here's my biopsy scar. It goes from here down to here, Well, it wasn't a biopsy. The biopsy, they carved away. Anyway, they claimed they had clean margins, so I should be okay. It's one of those that doesn't put down deep. You know, I never saw it back here. You know, it's out of sight, out of mind. Never heard. I don't have anything else actually. I'm out of ammo. So Smart Money says quit when you're ahead. So back to you, Dave. It's 7KC, Lee at Fort Edgley.
KC, well, time to call in recruits. Bob, K9PQ.
Hey, good evening. Hello again. I'm afraid I missed the train of thought. I'm not sure what I'm being recruited for, but sure, sign me up. Why not? Yeah, I liked, in fact, the reason I didn't catch that is I was looking for a math joke that I had seen recently and couldn't find it, but I like the nice belt, and the 789 is definitely the one that had come to mind for me, just the same as Jessica. Yeah, what I have to say about the drawing of James is it reminds me of a particular TV show from years ago where circle gets the square. So with that, I will send it back to Ned, K9PQ.
Well, let's see if we got Wade with us again. W7ITL. Response here. Let's see if Jim, N7QO, can get an audio signal out.
Hello? Can you hear me now?
Oh, there was a burst there. Can you hear me now?
I think I've got a problem with the connector on my rig. Not sure if this is going to hang in or not. Am I still with you?
Clear signal. Full quieting.
Installation?
Coverage at this time.
Well, Shazam. Let's hope it stays in there. Thanks, Dave, N7QO. Good evening, everyone. Holy cow, catching up to do here. Ron, yeah, nothing exciting happened to me this week either. It seems like everything I own is broken. I'm trying to catch up on things. I'm having difficulty finding parts. I find that parts are no longer available for most everything I have, which needs parts. Yeah, I also cannot believe that a month has gone by. Our meeting is Saturday. Sounds like you've made progress on your HF radio cable. Let's see. Jessica, congratulations on the day off. And thanks for the tip on the Peter Max pictures. Lee, wow, overhauled, yeah. New glasses, new crown. 4 months on the glasses? Holy cow. Working on the bird feeder and the deer waterer. Bob, earthquake detectors. I don't know. My earthquake detector, I guess if my wife grabs me, makes me think, first thing I think is, what did I do? And then the second thing is are we having an earthquake? Jim, super glue. Yeah, I've had a similar experience.
if you hold a thing down under pressure for a reasonable amount of time, and I use like a minute or so, it seems to work a whole lot better. Dave, sorry about your ransomware attack. Sounds like you've got it under control for now. Fortunately, I have not had the honor yet. Lee, sounds like you've had some cool jobs. And glad you got a clean bill of health there. Back to you, Dave, N7QO.
7QO, and time for an ID again. This is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society. That's on the 08 machine. I'm Dave, KD7CYM. Well, let's go to James, WU7N in Bellevue.
Dave, WU7N Northeast Bellevue. Well, Ron, I'm sorry to hear that your little orange transmitter was homeless and had to be sent back to whoever loaned it to you. I thought that thing was pretty cute. I, like you, don't understand why they didn't put 10 meters on it. It would seem that that wasn't that difficult. I recall reading a little bit about that little microcontroller QRP. I'm not sure, was it 10 watts? Maybe 5 watts, I don't remember what it was now. But anyway, yeah, I could kind of see if you only had a technician class license how that might be somewhat limiting. But, you know, that's just saying you should go take one of those weekend general classes, and then you could use it. That's what you need to do. Although I have a kit someone gave me that I have yet to assemble. I was going to assemble it during COVID, and I couldn't find it. So maybe I gave it away to someone else. It was a 40-meter QRP rig. And, of course, the fun ones to make are with the little color burst crystal. There's a whole group of people who make little QRP rigs with that are rock bound to that frequency, which is right in the middle of the CW band here in the U.S. Collector of broken microwaves. I have one in my garage. It's a really large, nice one, and I think the transformer went out on that one. And so I was going to swap out the transformer when my Sears died because I ended up pulling a bunch of parts out of that one, and the transformer was perfectly good. Yeah, the one that puts out, what, 20 or 40,000 volts? It's important not to touch that. Then this most recent, an Oster microwave went out, and I think it's just the controller board. It's probably just a relay on the controller board. But my goodness, I couldn't find a replacement controller board, and you could spend a lot of time trying to figure out why the little relay is not working. You can hear a click, but absolutely nothing happens. There's no power going to the fan or the whole, death to anyone who touches it microwave circuit. One fun fact I did learn, though, when I was trying to repair my Sears microwave, which lasted forever, is that the diode that comes off the capacitor inside a microwave, you cannot test it with a normal diode tester. I could not get that to work, and it drove me nuts. What I had to do is actually put a couple of volts across the diode with a little LED and then reverse it, and I could prove that that diode had in fact worked. The Sears microwave was way over-engineered, and I think it had a big old SCR in it that did something. And I thought I'd be clever and bypass something to see if I could get just the magnetron circuit to work. And one little resistor on the control board, which looked like something out of an Apollo spaceship, suddenly gave its life and made a little flame of smoke. And I unplugged everything, and I said, we're done with this. And that's when I decided maybe I should go back to the nuclear power plant project in the basement and not mess with microwaves anymore, because I thought I really traced it all out, and I thought I really had it down, and then that happened, and I went, my goodness, there do seem to be a few circuit paths I don't know about. Fun fact, too, you don't actually have to touch the transformer. If you just get close and you're grounded to the side that puts out the really high voltage, and there's no nicer place for all that energy to go, it'll go through you, and you don't actually have to touch it. You can actually get an arc to come off it. There's a guy on YouTube that's actually, it's really a form of radio. It's just really high power. And I saw a guy on YouTube set up this experiment with a couple of microwave transformers, and I go, that's crazy. Crazier is a couple of Russians had a big old magnetron out, and they had a test tube of water on a little pole, and they were moving it closer to the magnetron, and of course it's inverse square law, so you hit this point. I mean, it really is instructive on how this kind of mathematics works, because the water's fine, and then it's just boiling like crazy and turns to steam. And that must be a really powerful magnetron to get that effect, because that water was gone in that test tube. I said, don't get your finger too close. These are just little test tubes of water. Oh, well, anyway, on that microwave safety note, oh, yes, one last thing, an observation. It's a medical breakthrough. Diarrhea is hereditary. It does run in your genes. So with that note, I'm going to say, let's turn it back to Dave. This is WW7N in Bellevue. Go ahead, Dave.
Say boo. Oh, well. This is Dave, KD7ZYM in Lake City. Oh, my, that's a hard one to come back with. We sort of flushed that one aside, so to speak. Oh, my. Well, anyway, Lee's looking pretty good there. I was expecting when he said he got a new crown, but it looks like the same old hat. I don't know. For a crown, it certainly looks like a hat instead of a crown. But oh, the mouth crown. I see. But now he's got glasses and he can see the crown, so that's even better yet. So anyway, and everything's healing. The arm's getting better. The eyesight's getting better. Glasses are acceptable. So anything, lots to be thankful for in this day and age. This is Dave, KD7ZYM in Lake City. As I say, every day is a holiday, and I enjoy getting up every morning and enjoying it. So let's move it on to Ron, KD7QKU.
Okay, this is Ron, KD7QKU. Well, as always, it's been a joy to listen to everybody. And diarrhea is hereditary. Runs in your genes. I gotta remember that one. I don't have any more, you guys. I was just trying to think what I've been doing. It seems like we've been busy. We've taken the cat over to the doctor and got some more subcutaneous fluid put in her. We need to take her every couple of weeks, but we forgot, and we hadn't had her in for about a month, and she threw up, and that's not a good sign. So we rushed her over and got her some fluid, and then we actually taken her back a few days later and got some more. So I think maybe she was, she gets dehydrated. And, but anyway, I think she's back okay now. We'll have to watch her. Let's see, I don't know. You heard me talk about Joanne, and Joanne was on some medication, and she had every side effect that the medication had to offer. And she was fine last summer, but then she, her legs would swell up, and her ankles and everything, and she was staggering around, and oh my goodness, lightheaded, trying to faint and everything. And for all the side effects. So anyway, today she started a new medicine. They gradually cut her back on the amount that she was taking for 2 weeks, and then last night she didn't take any, and then this morning she started this new medication. The doctor, what did she say? Joanne wanted to know why she was on it in the first place. I did too, but I wasn't there to ask the question. But what is she has a heart arrhythmia, I guess. I didn't realize that. She has those fainting spells. She's had them now for the last 10 years or something, where every now and then she just drops over. Well, when we came over here, after she had one of those spells, they put a heart monitor on her. She wore that for a week or two. Well, I guess that must have been one of the conclusions. And that's why the primary care doctor put her on that medication. So I had her switch primary care doctor. I didn't like that lady. I had her go to a lady that's much closer and much nicer. And so Joanne asked her, she was in Friday, she was in Monday, why she was on the medicine to begin with. It was, I thought the medicine was mostly for congestive heart failure. And when Joanne was in to see the cardiologist, I went in with her, and I asked him, does she have congestive heart failure? And he said, no, her heart is fine. but he didn't say anything about that arrhythmia. Or, yeah, maybe it just shows up once in a while. I don't know how that works. I guess I need to check it out. But anyway, primary care doctor thought she still needed a little Medicaid, so she put her on the smallest dose of it, I think. So I'm sure hoping that she straightens up now and kind of gets back to normal. We did go for a little walk today, about a half a block. Yeah, I guess a block has 4 sides. We went one side, maybe a fourth of a block. All right, we'll see you over on Zoom. KD7QKU.
KD7QKU, thanks for that. This is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society net on the 08 machine, and it's time to terminate the net. We'd like to thank the SeaTac Repeater Association for allowing us to use the 08 machine 147.08 for our voice transmissions for our nets held on Wednesdays and Saturdays between 8 and 9 o'clock. So on behalf of the Western Washington Amateur Television Society, this is Dave terminating the net KD7CYM at 9:01.
KC disconnected.